It's chaos. It's a different type of Sunday scary. It's your newest obsession. It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Dirty Driving. This one is going to be nice, short, sweet, simple, just a taste. It's a mini episode, and with silly season right around the corner, we really never know when it could get started. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about something I don't think Dirty Driving has ever really spoken about, and that's the super license. Only 12 of the current 20 drivers on the grid have their spot secured for 2024. There's bound to be some shuffling around, and there's a high probability of having at least one or two new rookie faces next year. Unlike the original days of F1, where you could pretty much compete as long as you could afford to build a car that could compete. These days, any driver that are wishing to compete in Formula One itself needs to hold the super license. So that is what we're talking about today. What is the super license? How do they get it? And what are some other key things to know about it? Let's jump right in. What is a super license? Well, at its core, it's a driver's license which is issued by the FIA based on a variety of experience and factors, which are all detailed in the International Sporting Code, which is a rule book for all FIA governed motorsport events. To be clear, the FIA does issue a wide range of license for their sanctioned competition. So there's a karting license, there's endurance license, there's single-seater license. But to race in Formula One, it requires the best of the best, the super license. How does a driver earn a super license? There are three parts to earning a super license. The basics include you have to have a current FIA International Grade A license, which you receive once you make it up to Formula 2, Formula 3, etc. You also have to have a valid traditional driver's license. And then finally, you have to be at least 18 years old at the start of your first F1 competition. Some other key items that you would need to have, these are more of like the tests, if you will. The drivers must successfully complete a knowledge test on the International Sporting Code and then another knowledge test on the F1 sporting regulations. They are also required to have completed at least 80% of two separate seasons from a certified single-seater championship. These range from F2, F3, IndyCar, Formula E, NASCAR, the W Series, and a ton of others. So you have to have at least 80% of two seasons of experience before you can qualify for the super license. And then the third part, and the most important part, are the points. So drivers need to accumulate at least 40 points on their path to F1 in a 3-year time period leading up to the time of application. Points are awarded per championship classification to the top 10 in each championship competition. For example, in IndyCar, if you take first place in the championship, you get 40 points. In 10th, you get 1. In F2, you get 40 points for taking first and 3 points for taking 10th. In F3, you get 30 points for first place and 2 points for 10th. And then both in NASCAR and the W Series, if you take first, you get 15 points. And if you're in 10th, 0. So it staggers down 1 through 10, the amount of points that you get. There are a few notes to add when talking about the super license. COVID-19, the thing that has changed everything, yes, it changed the code, the International Sporting Code. It sounds like I'm talking about the pirate code from Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's the sporting code. And it changed to Should the 3-year period preceding the time of application include the years of 2020 or 2021, the FIA will consider the highest number of points accumulated in any of the 3 or 4 years preceding the year of application. So they have that additional 4th year to draw points from. When talking about an F1 returnee, so someone who has left the sport and come back, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg, etc., for them to renew their super license, they must have had a super license in one of the previous 3 years and also pass a vote of the FIA where they review if the driver has recently and consistently demonstrated outstanding ability in single-seater Formula cars. The last thing to note is that the F1 team involved in the application of the super license must show that the driver has completed at least 300 kilometers in a representative F1 car, consistently at racing speeds over 2 days, and completed no more than 180 days prior to the application. This essentially is the reason why we see so many F2 and F3 drivers running in car testing or free practice sessions throughout the F1 season. Usually it's closer to the end of the season, but this is the reason why. And there's points that can be associated with completing free practice sessions. We'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about how you can gain some random extra points. For the championships that have a penalty points system in place, if the driver competes in the whole championship without earning any penalty points, they are granted an additional 2 points. In addition, the winner of the FIA F3 World Cup will receive an additional 5 points. And finally, like I mentioned, a driver who has had a free practice session will receive 1 extra point per F1 championship event that they race in, following that they've completed at least 100 kilometers during that practice session and no penalty points have been gained. They can earn up to 10 points by participating in FP sessions. Let's look at an example, and we're going to pick Logan Sargent because he's the most recent example we can look at. Logan hit 29 points headed into the 2022 F2 finale in Abu Dhabi. He gained these points based on his F3 performances and those 2 extra points for his free practice session runs in Austin and Brazil. He hit 30 points after his FP1 running in Abu Dhabi, and then he hit 60 points after securing P4 in the F2 championship. In addition, he added another 2 points for no penalties during that F2 season. Although it was kind of close and we weren't sure if he was going to take it and get the points that he needed, he easily passed the required 40 points with his 62 total points. That's all you need to know about the super license. It's one of the most important things leading up to a driver's Formula One career. And like I said, I don't think we've ever talked about it on Dirty Driving. So heading into silly season where we're going to have some new faces pop up, we've got to make sure that they've got a super license so that they can compete. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dirty Driving. Until next time, stay dirty.